What you're about to hear isn't just another message about kindness and unconditional love. It's a deep dive into the human psyche, revealing a truth Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists in history, discovered after decades of studying the soul. If you've ever felt that your kindness turns against you, that people mistake your nobility for weakness, or that the more you give, the less you receive, this message will show you why. Jung noticed a disturbing pattern. He saw it clearly in his patients. Those who believed they were too good were often the ones suffering the most. But what does it really mean to be good? In today's world, we've created an idealized image of goodness. Someone who's always available, who never says no, who forgives without hesitation, and who constantly puts others before themselves. Jung realized that this version of goodness wasn't just wrong, it was dangerous. Because when we confuse kindness with self-sacrifice, when we see love as the absence of boundaries, we become our own executioners. Jung uncovered something deeply unsettling. The more we strive to be perfectly good, the stronger our shadow becomes. That hidden part of us we deny, suppress, and try to bury beneath layers of forced niceness. It's like trying to hold a ball underwater. The harder you push, the stronger it fights to rise. Picture your kindness as a bright light. Society teaches us that to keep that light on, we must shut off everything else: our anger, our needs, our limits. But Jung saw how flawed this idea was. True kindness doesn't come from denying who we are. It comes from embracing every part of us. How many times have you heard that voice inside whispering, "Enough," only to silence it because a good person wouldn't think that way? How many times have you buried your anger, your frustration, your pain, thinking these feelings make you less worthy? Every time you reject these parts of yourself, you don't become better, you become more broken. This message isn't telling you to give up on being kind. It's calling you to awaken from naive kindness and transform it into something deeper, stronger, and more complete. Because true kindness isn't the absence of darkness, it's the ability to integrate every part of who we are into a whole. What you're about to uncover might shake the foundation of everything you believed about goodness. It might challenge old beliefs about love, sacrifice, and authenticity. But if you dare to listen, if you allow yourself to question what you've always taken for granted, you'll find a truth that frees you. True kindness doesn't weaken you, it empowers you. It doesn't drain you, it fills you. It doesn't make you smaller, it makes you whole. This is the dark but honest wisdom Jung left behind. To be truly good, we must first become truly whole. And that journey begins by facing the shadows we've worked so hard to deny. When Jung spoke of the shadow, he wasn't talking about something abstract or symbolic. He meant a real psychological force we all carry within us, a part of us we're taught to fear, repress, and disown. It's where we hide what we think is unacceptable: our anger, our deepest desires, our right to say no, our need to be seen. For those who consider themselves inherently kind, the shadow becomes a terrifying place. Their identity is built around being the light, always helping, never failing, being there for everyone. The thought of having a dark side fills them with dread, as if admitting it would destroy everything they think they are. But this denial comes with a heavy cost. When we reject our shadow, when we pretend it doesn't exist, it gains power. It becomes uncontrollable. It's like trying to hold back a river with your hands. Eventually, it will break through. Repressed energy doesn't disappear. It twists, it mutates, it emerges in ways we can't control. Overly kind people experience this in subtle but destructive ways. It appears as resentment after helping someone who never returns the favor. It shows up as silent anger when others cross invisible boundaries. It turns into deep sadness when they realize no one truly sees their needs. The more we strive to be perfectly good, the more vulnerable we become to our own shadow. It's a strange paradox. Deny your anger, and you become passive-aggressive. Reject your need for recognition, and you become subtly manipulative. Pretend you don't need anything, and you become an emotional vampire, unconsciously draining others. According to Jung, the shadow isn't our enemy, it's an essential part of our inner world. It holds not only our negative traits, but also our unclaimed power, our ability to set healthy boundaries, to stand up for ourselves when needed. When we reject the shadow, we don't just lose our darkness, we lose part of our light. Imagine someone who's spent their whole life being the good one. They were taught that anger is bad, that setting boundaries is selfish, that their needs come last. This person doesn't just suppress their anger, they suppress their personal power, their ability to say no, their right to take up space. Their kindness becomes a self-made prison. Jung understood this isn't real kindness. It's fear disguised as virtue. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of not being enough. Truly kind people aren't those who never get angry or never set limits. They're the ones who've learned to integrate all their parts into a coherent whole. The shadow, when acknowledged and embraced, becomes a wellspring of strength. It's like a dark garden. If we dare to enter, we'll find not just our fears, but also our deepest powers. That's where naive kindness transforms into conscious wisdom. For Jung, true spiritual work isn't about eliminating the shadow. It's about learning to dance with it. It means recognizing that our ability to feel anger is just as sacred as our ability to love, that our boundaries are just as important as our generosity, and that our need for recognition is just as valid as our desire to give. This is the first step on the path to a more authentic and powerful kindness, realizing that the shadow is not your enemy, but a part of you that has long waited to be seen, embraced, and honored. And when you finally dare to meet its gaze, you'll find that what you feared the most might be exactly what you needed to feel whole. Blind kindness comes at a cost paid not only in emotional exhaustion, but in delayed dreams, unbalanced relationships, and a half-lived life. It shows up as the constant fatigue of those who give endlessly, the silent frustration of those who suppress their own needs, and the deep loneliness of those surrounded by people who never truly see them. Think of someone who has made self-sacrifice their identity. This person gives not just their time and energy, they give away essential pieces of themselves. Every time they ignore their own needs for the sake of others, every time they silence their voice to keep the peace, every time they say yes while their soul screams no, they're paying with fragments of their essence. The modern martyr doesn't wear a visible crown of thorns. Their suffering takes the form of sleepless nights, worrying about others' problems, of relationships where they always give more than they receive, of a schedule so full of commitments to others that there's no space left for themselves. It's a way of life that society not only accepts, but praises, without seeing the deep self-neglect that lies beneath that apparent nobility. Jung observed that this pattern of self-sacrifice often has deep roots in childhood. Maybe you were the child who had to be the good one to keep peace in the family. Maybe you learned that your worth depended on how much you could do for others. These early lessons become invisible chains that bind us to self-destructive behaviors. The relationships of someone who practices blind kindness follow a predictable script. They become everyone's confidant, the shoulder to cry on, the unwavering support. But when they need help, they're met with an unsettling emptiness. People become so accustomed to receiving from them that they never even consider offering anything back. It's a unique kind of loneliness, being surrounded by people who know your kindness, but not your heart. The exhaustion of constantly giving isn't just physical. It's a soul-level fatigue that drains not only energy, but the joy of living. It's like a slow spiritual death, where the person gradually loses touch with their own dreams, desires, and needs. They become an empty vessel, existing solely to fulfill others' needs. This imbalance creates a toxic dynamic where the kind person becomes increasingly indispensable to others while becoming increasingly invisible to themselves. It's a form of codependency disguised as virtue, but in truth, it's a self-imposed prison. This person becomes a resource to others, slowly losing their own humanity. The cruel irony is that this excessive kindness doesn't just hurt the one practicing it, it also harms those it's meant to help. By constantly rescuing others, by always being available, by never letting them face the consequences of their actions, the chronically kind person stunts the growth of those they're trying to save. This behavior pattern doesn't just drain you, it breeds resentment. The resentment of someone who gave everything and received nothing in return. Of someone who was there for everyone, yet finds no one there when they need support. And when that resentment is buried under layers of kindness, it becomes a poison that slowly seeps into every relationship. This is the real cost of blind kindness. We don't just lose our energy, our time, or our peace of mind. We lose connection to our true essence, to our deepest desires, to our ability to set healthy boundaries. We become diluted versions of ourselves, existing mostly in service to others' needs. Integrating the shadow is not a smooth or comfortable process. It's a journey that demands courage, honesty, and the willingness to face what we've long avoided. It's like turning on a light in a room that's been dark for years. At first, what we see might be unsettling, but only by seeing clearly can we begin to put things in order and transform. This process starts with acknowledging that our excessive kindness has often been a form of avoidance. We avoid conflict. We avoid rejection. We avoid the possibility of being judged or criticized. Behind every act of excessive kindness hides a fundamental fear, the fear of not being loved for who we truly are. Transformation requires a very particular kind of bravery. We must be willing to disappoint those who've grown used to our unconditional availability. It's like rewriting an invisible contract we've upheld with the world for years. The silent agreement has been, I'll be everything you need, and in return, you'll love me. But now, the new contract says, I'll be authentic, even if that means I won't always please you. Integrating the shadow doesn't mean becoming cruel or indifferent. On the contrary, it means developing a kindness that is more powerful and real. It's the difference between a weak flame that any breeze can blow out and a strong fire that gives warmth and light without being consumed. True integration happens when we realize that our ability to set boundaries is just as sacred as our ability to give. The power that comes from this integration is fundamentally different from cruelty. Cruelty is born from fear, from weakness, from the need to dominate. True power, The kind that comes from shadow integration emerges from self-acceptance, from the ability to stand in our truth without needing to overpower others. The wise kindness that arises from this journey is like a tree with deep roots. It doesn't need to prove its strength by tearing others down. Its power is shown in its steadiness, in offering shelter when it's right to do so, and in maintaining its natural boundaries without apologizing for taking up space in the world. Those who reach this integration discover a beautiful paradox. The more they accept their darkness, the more genuinely kind they become. They no longer give out of compulsion or fear, but from a conscious choice. Their generosity flows from abundance, not from emptiness. Their compassion comes from strength, not weakness. This new way of being demands a continued commitment to authenticity. It means recognizing that sometimes we will feel anger, and that this anger can serve as a compass pointing to where our limits have been crossed. It means accepting that sometimes we will need to say no, and that this no can be just as sacred as any yes we've ever offered. Integration also means acknowledging that not all our shadow parts are negative. Within that shadow, we've feared lie our most powerful gifts, our discernment, our intuition about others' intentions, our fierce ability to protect what we hold sacred. The wise kindness that comes from integration has discernment. It knows when to give and when to withhold, when to move closer and when to keep distance. It's not a kindness that spills out aimlessly, but one that flows with purpose and awareness. It's a kindness that honors both the giver and the receiver, that sees healthy boundaries as a form of mutual respect. This transformation allows us to move through the world in an entirely new way. We're no longer the candle that burns itself out to light others' paths. We become the lighthouse, radiating our own light, guiding others without depletion. Our kindness becomes more powerful precisely because we no longer need everyone's approval or love. The true integration of the shadow allows us to be kind, not out of fear of being something else, but because we choose to be, out of wholeness. It's a kindness that includes our strength, our limits, our ability to say no, our willingness to disappoint when necessary. At its core, it is kindness born not from fear, but from truth. The establishment of healthy boundaries is a practice Jung saw as essential to psychological development. Yet, for those who've built their identity around endless kindness, setting limits can feel like a betrayal of their innermost nature. This is where ancient wisdom becomes especially relevant. Boundaries are not walls that divide us from others. They are sacred lines that define where we end and where others begin. The ability to create boundaries starts with a revolutionary act, recognizing our inherent worth. Not worth based on what we give or do for others, but the inner value that exists simply because we are. This recognition isn't selfish. It's a fundamental act of psychological honesty. When we begin to truly value ourselves, a new way of relating to the world unfolds. We no longer need to earn our right to exist through excessive goodness. We start to see that reciprocity in relationships is not a luxury. It is a psychological necessity. Healthy relationships are those in which giving and receiving flow in balance. This understanding changes the way we interact with others. We begin to realize that when we allow others to cross our boundaries repeatedly, we not only harm ourselves, we also prevent them from learning to respect personal limits. Genuine kindness includes the strength to uphold clear boundaries, because these boundaries protect both our ability to give and the dignity of those who receive. People who learn to set healthy boundaries encounter a fascinating paradox. Their relationships, though fewer, become far more meaningful. Some may drift away when we are no longer unconditionally available, but those who stay will be the ones who truly respect and value us as whole beings. The practice of setting boundaries involves developing a new emotional vocabulary. We begin to sense the difference between authentic guilt and manipulated guilt, between true responsibility and the burdens we've wrongly taken on. This process also means recognizing that our time, energy, and emotional resources are limited and sacred. We can't give from an empty well, and maintaining our boundaries is how we ensure we always have something to offer when it's truly needed and appropriate. The true protection of our kindness doesn't come from building walls, but from developing wise discernment about where, when, and with whom we share our gifts. It's like tending a garden. It requires both clear borders and constant care to flourish. When we guard our energy and resources properly, our ability to be genuinely kind grows stronger, not weaker. The alchemy of transformation is a profound process that begins when we finally allow our light and shadow to dance together. It's like watching two streams merge to create something entirely new, neither purely light nor purely dark, but a new kind of power born from conscious integration. This alchemical journey starts when we stop fighting against our dual nature. Jung discovered that true transformation doesn't happen by trying to eliminate our darker parts, but by allowing them to teach us what we need to learn. Our anger shows us where we need to set boundaries. Our resentment points to where we've been giving too much. Our sadness reveals where more care is needed, and authentic strength emerges from this integration, like gold purified through the alchemical fire of self-awareness. It's no longer the brute force of aggression, nor the weakness disguised as endless kindness. It becomes a new, refined power, one that knows when to move forward and when to pull back, when to give and when to conserve, when to speak and when to remain silent. People who achieve this integration develop a particular presence. They don't need to prove their goodness or their power. They simply are. Their authenticity becomes their shield, and their truth their sword. They've learned that real strength lies not in controlling others, but in mastering themselves. The wisdom that comes from this transformation is like a controlled flame. It can warm or burn, depending on how it's used. Those who reach this state understand that their power isn't meant to dominate, but to protect what is sacred, including their own essence. They've learned that kindness without discernment is just as dangerous as power without compassion. This new way of being in the world demands constant vigilance, not from fear, but from awakened awareness. It's like tending a balanced garden. Some plants need more sun, others more shade, and the wise gardener knows both are necessary for a healthy ecosystem. In the same way, we learn to nourish both our light and our shadow, knowing that both are essential to our wholeness. The kindness that comes from this alchemy is a conscious choice, not a compulsion born of fear or guilt. It's a kindness that knows its worth, that doesn't need to prove itself constantly, that can say no without guilt and yes without resentment. It's a kindness that has made peace with its own shadow, and therefore doesn't fear the darkness in others. This transformation is an ongoing process, not a final destination. It's an eternal dance between light and shadow, power and compassion, giving and receiving. Every day presents us with new chances to refine this balance, to consciously choose how to use our power, to be kind from a place of strength rather than fear. This personal alchemy creates a ripple effect in the world around us. When we allow ourselves to be whole, we give others implicit permission to do the same. When we show that it's possible to be both strong and kind, both powerful and compassionate, we create a new model of what it means to be truly human. The final transformation leads us to a place where we understand that real kindness is not a straitjacket that limits us, but a power that sets us free. It's not a mask we wear to be accepted, but an authentic expression of who we truly are. It's a state of being where our power and compassion flow from the same source, where our light and shadow work together to create something greater than the sum of their parts. The journey we've explored through Jung's wisdom isn't just a set of ideas, it's an invitation to deep transformation. A transformation that begins the moment we accept that our kindness doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful, that our power doesn't have to be feared to be respected, and that our wholeness includes both light and shadow. Jung has shown us that the path to a more authentic and powerful life doesn't lie in denying our dual nature, but in consciously embracing it. When we integrate our shadow, when we allow our power and our kindness to coexist, we become more complete, more capable of creating the life we truly desire. Now the invitation is to take the next step, to look within and ask yourself, what parts of you have you been denying in the name of being good? What power have you been repressing out of fear of being less accepted? What boundaries have you been avoiding for fear of disappointing others? This is the moment to remember. Your kindness does not depend on your perfection. Your worth is not defined by how much you give or how much you sacrifice. Your power doesn't lessen your capacity to love, and your boundaries do not make you any less worthy of being loved. The transformation Jung invites us to make is not a destination, it's an ongoing journey. Every day offers new opportunities to choose authenticity over people-pleasing, conscious power over weakness disguised as virtue, real kindness over automatic self-sacrifice. The world needs people who have integrated both their light and their shadow, who understand that true goodness doesn't come from repression, but from conscious integration. It needs whole human beings who can embody both strength and compassion, who know when to give and when to hold back, who understand that their boundaries are just as sacred as their ability to love. As you close this message, remember, you're not here to be perfect. You're here to be whole. And in that wholeness, in that integration of every part of you, you will find not only the strength to create the life you dream of, but also the wisdom to live it with authenticity and true power. The question now isn't whether you're good enough. The real question is, are you ready to be truly powerful? Not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that transforms. Not the power that fears the shadow, but the one that integrates it and uses it to create something greater than ourselves. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, activate the notification bell, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's walk this path of transformation together.